The rain had started early that Tuesday morning, turning the streets into rivers of gray. Marcus Webb finished his client meeting 2 hours ahead of schedule, a rare occurrence in his architectural firm. The presentation had gone so smoothly that Mr. Patterson signed the contract on the spot, leaving Marcus with an unexpected free afternoon. He decided to surprise his wife, Rachel, maybe take her out for an early dinner to celebrate. As he pulled into their driveway at 2:47 p.m., Marcus noticed an unfamiliar silver sedan parked on the street. He thought nothing of it initially. Their neighborhood always had visitors. He grabbed his briefcase and the bouquet of tulips he'd picked up from the corner shop, Rachel's favorites, and headed toward the front door. The house was quiet when he entered. Too quiet. Usually, Rachel played music while she worked from home. Her marketing report spread across the dining table. But today, silence hung in the air like a held breath. Marcus set down his briefcase in the foyer, still holding the flowers. Then he heard it. A muffled thump from upstairs, followed by frantic whispering. His heart didn't race. His hands didn't shake. Instead, a strange calm settled over him. The same clinical detachment he felt when reviewing blueprints for structural flaws. He walked toward the staircase, his footsteps deliberately audible on the hardwood floor. "Marcus?" Rachel's voice called out, high-pitched with panic. "Is that you? You're home early." He didn't answer. He simply climbed the stairs one measured step at a time. The bedroom door was partially closed. He pushed it open with 2 fingers. The scene before him was exactly what he'd expected and somehow worse than he'd imagined. Rachel stood near the bed in her bra and jeans, her shirt clutched against her chest. Beside her, fumbling with his belt, was Derek Chen, her co-worker, the one she'd mentioned casually over dozens of dinners. "Derek's so funny," she'd said. "Derek suggested this great restaurant. Derek thinks I should ask for that promotion." Derek's face had gone the color of old newspaper. Rachel's eyes were wide, tears already forming, her mouth opening and closing like a fish drowning in air. "Marcus, please," she began, her voice cracking. "It's not what it looks like." Marcus stood in the doorway, still holding the tulips. He looked at his wife, the woman he'd loved for 7 years, married for 5, and felt nothing. Not anger, not betrayal, not even disappointment. Just a vast, echoing emptiness where those feelings should have been. He glanced at Derek, who seemed to be trying to disappear into the wallpaper. Then back at Rachel, who had started crying in earnest now, mascara tracking down her cheeks. "Good," Marcus said, his voice perfectly level. "Because you're both leaving." "What?" Rachel's tears stopped mid-flow, confusion replacing panic. Marcus stepped aside from the doorway, gesturing toward the hall with his free hand. "You heard me. Both of you, get dressed and get out of my house." "Your house?" Rachel's voice rose, defensive now. "This is our house, Marcus. We need to talk about this. It was a mistake, a horrible mistake. Please, we can work through this." "No," Marcus said simply. He walked to the bedroom window and opened it, then systematically dropped each tulip out onto the lawn below. One by one, they fell like small yellow and pink bodies. "This house is in my name. My inheritance paid the down payment, and this marriage is over." Derek had finished dressing with shaking hands. "Look, man, I'm sorry. I never meant—" "I don't care what you meant," Marcus interrupted, not even looking at him. "Leave now or I call the police and tell them I found an intruder in my home. Your choice." Derek practically ran from the room. Marcus heard him stumbling down the stairs, the front door slamming moments later. Rachel sank onto the edge of the bed, still crying. 7 years, Marcus. You're throwing away 7 years over one mistake?" Marcus finally looked at her directly. "No, Rachel. You did that all by yourself. You have 1 hour to pack what you need. I'll be downstairs. Your mother lives 20 minutes away. I suggest you call her." He walked out without waiting for a response, closing the door behind him with a soft click that sounded to his ears, like the final period at the end of a very long sentence. Marcus sat in his home office, the door locked while Rachel moved around upstairs. He could hear her opening and closing drawers, the rolling of her suitcase across the floor, occasional sobs that sounded almost performative. He opened his laptop and began making lists. The first call was to Tom Harrison, his college roommate and now one of the best divorce attorneys in the state. Tom answered on the second ring. "Marcus, long time, what's up?" "I need a divorce attorney," Marcus said without preamble. "Can you take the case?" There was a pause. "Jesus, are you serious? You and Rachel?" Found her with a coworker an hour ago. I need this done quickly and cleanly. Tom's voice shifted to professional mode. Don't leave the house. Document everything. Do you have any joint accounts? 3, I'll start separating them today. Good. Email me a list of all assets, house, cars, investments, everything. We'll move fast. Maryland's a no-fault state, which works in our favor. How long were you married? 5 years. Together for 7. Any kids? No. That simplifies things. Marcus, I'm sorry, man. Don't be. Just help me end this efficiently. After hanging up, Marcus opened his banking app. The joint checking account showed $47,000. Rachel's spending had always been substantial, but he'd earned enough not to care. Until now. He transferred half to his personal account, leaving her exactly what she was entitled to. The savings account, investment portfolio, and his retirement fund had always been separate, thank God. His father's advice echoed in his memory. Keep some money just yours, son. Not because you don't trust her, but because you trust yourself. Upstairs, footsteps stopped. Rachel appeared in the office doorway, her face blotchy and swollen. Marcus, please. Can we just talk about this like adults? We are talking like adults, Marcus replied, not looking up from his screen. Adults who are getting divorced. Tom Harrison will send you papers within 48 hours. Tom? You already called a lawyer? Her voice cracked with fresh outrage. You're not even going to give us a chance to fix this? Marcus finally looked at her. What's there to fix, Rachel? You cheated. In our bed. In our home. How long has it been going on? She looked away. 3 months, 3 months. 90 days of lies. 90 nights of her coming to bed next to him after being with someone else. He felt that clinical detachment deepen, become something close to peace. Thank you for your honesty, he said. Now please finish packing. Where am I supposed to go? Your mother's, your sister's, a hotel. That's no longer my concern. Rachel's face twisted. You're so cold, Marcus. You've always been cold. Maybe that's why I don't, he interrupted quietly. Don't try to make this my fault. Own what you did and leave. She stood there for another moment, then turned and left. 20 minutes later, he heard her car start and pull away. The house fell silent. Marcus sat in that silence for a long time. Then he stood, walked through each room and opened every window. The rain had stopped and fresh air poured in, clearing away something stale and rotten he hadn't even realized he'd been breathing. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus moved with calculated precision. Tom filed for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. Rachel's attorney tried to argue for alimony, but with her affair documented and her own substantial income as a marketing director, they had no leverage. The house was Marcus's inheritance. The cars were in separate names. They split the joint accounts 50-50. Rachel called 17 times. Marcus answered none of them. She texted, paragraphs of apologies and recriminations, pleas and accusations. He read each one once, saved them for his attorney, and never replied. Derek was fired from Rachel's company within a week. Apparently, office affairs violated their ethics policy. Rachel wasn't fired, but the whispers and stares made her life miserable enough that she quit within a month. Marcus learned this through mutual friends, the same ones who awkwardly asked if he was doing okay. I'm fine, he told them, and he meant it. He felt lighter somehow, as if he'd been carrying weight he hadn't noticed until it was gone. His work became his refuge. Marcus threw himself into a new project, a sustainable housing development that had been his passion for years. He spent long hours at the office, came home to his empty house, and felt no loneliness. Just space, just quiet, just himself. 2 months after Rachel left, the divorce was finalized. Marcus signed the papers in Tom's office, his signature steady and clear. Quickest divorce I've handled in years, Tom said. No kids, clear asset separation, and she knew she couldn't fight the adultery angle. You're a free man, Marcus. Marcus nodded. Thank you, Tom. Now what? Now I live my life. And he did. 6 months after his divorce was finalized, Marcus found himself working late again, reviewing blueprints for the Sustainable Housing Project. The development had become his masterpiece. 30 homes designed to be both affordable and environmentally responsible, each one incorporating solar panels, rainwater collection, and passive heating and cooling. It was nearly midnight when he realized he'd skipped dinner again. The only place still open was a small diner 3 blocks from his office. Marcus had passed it 1,000 times but never stopped. Tonight, exhausted and hungry, he pushed through the glass door into warm light and the smell of coffee. The place was nearly empty except for a waitress behind the counter. She looked up as he entered, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. The first real feeling he'd experienced in months. She had dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, tired eyes that still managed to be kind, and a name tag that read, Elena. "Kitchen's about to close," she said apologetically, "but I can still get you breakfast food or a sandwich?" "Breakfast sounds perfect," Marcus said, sliding onto a counter stool. "Scrambled eggs, wheat toast, coffee, black." She smiled, and he noticed it reached her eyes. "Rough night? Long night. There's a difference. I like that perspective." She poured his coffee, and their fingers brushed as she slid the cup toward him. "I'm Elena, Marcus. And I know I can read name tags," she laughed. A genuine sound that filled the empty diner. "Good. You'd be surprised how many people can't." While she cooked his eggs, they talked. Small things at first. The weather, the city, the challenges of working late. But conversation came easily, naturally, in a way Marcus hadn't experienced in years. Elena had been a waitress for 2 years while finishing her degree in environmental science. She was 29, funny, and had a way of looking at him that made Marcus feel actually seen, not just observed. "Environmental science?" Marcus said. "That's my field. I'm an architect specializing in sustainable design." Elena's eyes lit up. "Seriously? I've been dying to work in practical applications. All theory and lab work is making me crazy." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her photos of the housing development. Elena leaned over the counter, asking questions that showed she actually understood the technical aspects. They talked until the owner, an elderly Greek man, came out and told Elena to close up and go home. "Can I see you again?" Marcus asked as he paid his bill, leaving a generous tip. Elena hesitated, then wrote her number on his receipt. "Call me if you want. But fair warning, I'm weird about coffee dates. They feel like job interviews. How about a walk through the housing development site instead? Sunday morning?" Her smile was answer enough. That Sunday began something Marcus hadn't planned for. Happiness. Elena was everything Rachel hadn't been. Present, genuine, intellectually curious. She showed up in jeans and hiking boots, asked a million questions about the construction process, and when Marcus explained the passive solar heating design, she offered suggestions from her coursework that actually improved his plans. They didn't rush anything. Marcus was careful, cautious, still healing from wounds he didn't like to examine. Elena had her own scars. A father who'd left when she was 12. A previous boyfriend who'd borrowed money and disappeared. They traded stories over diners and coffee shops, long walks and longer conversations. 3 months in, Elena graduated with honors. Marcus attended her ceremony, sitting in the audience as she crossed the stage. Afterward, he took her to dinner at the nicest restaurant in the city. "I have a job offer for you," he said over dessert. Elena raised an eyebrow. "Is this where you proposition me inappropriately?" "Yes, but not the way you think. My firm needs an environmental consultant for the housing project and future developments. The pay is competitive, the work is exactly what you've been training for, and you want to hire me?" Elena leaned back. "Marcus, I don't want charity. It's not charity. I showed your suggestions to my partners. They were impressed. This is a real offer, completely separate from us." Elena studied him. "Can I think about it?" "Of course." She accepted 2 days later and proved immediately that Marcus's faith in her was justified. Elena brought fresh perspectives to the team, caught problems before they became expensive mistakes, and won over even the most skeptical partners with her competence and work ethic. More importantly, she made Marcus remember what it felt like to build something with someone, rather than despite them. They worked together during the day and spent evenings together more often than not. Easy, comfortable, real. A year after their first meeting in the diner, Marcus asked Elena to move in with him. They were standing in the first completed house of the development, inspecting the finished product. "This place feels like home," Elena said, running her hand along the kitchen counter. "You built something beautiful here." "We built it," Marcus corrected. "Your designs for the water systems made this work. This is as much yours as mine." Elena turned to him. "Is this you being generous, or you genuinely seeing me as an equal partner?" "The second one. Always the second one." He took her hand. "Move in with me." Not because it makes sense, not because we work together. Because I want to wake up next to you and fall asleep next to you and build a life with you. A real one. Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. Yes, God, yes. They moved her things in that weekend, and Marcus's house, the same house where his marriage had ended, became their home. Elena filled it with plants and laughter, books stacked on every surface, her coffee cups left on random tables. The chaos was beautiful. Rachel saw the Instagram post on a Wednesday evening, 2 years after Marcus had told her to leave. She was scrolling through her feed mindlessly, glass of wine in hand, when a photo stopped her cold. Marcus, smiling, actually smiling, something he'd rarely done with her, standing in front of a row of modern houses. His arm was around a woman Rachel didn't recognize, a beautiful woman with dark hair and bright eyes, wearing a hard hat and work boots, looking at Marcus like he hung the moon. The caption read, "Sustainable Living Development Grand Opening with my partner in crime and life, Elena Verdi. 2 years of work, couldn't have done it without her. Architecture, sustainability, blessed." Rachel's hand shook as she clicked through to Elena's profile. It was public. Photo after photo of Marcus and Elena, hiking, at restaurants, at work sites, at what looked like Elena's graduation, Marcus cooking in their kitchen, Elena asleep on Marcus's couch, his jacket draped over her. The two of them covered in paint, renovating something. A selfie captioned "home," showing them in bed together, laughing at something off camera. The date stamps told the story. They'd met about 6 months after the divorce, been together ever since, built a life together, and Marcus looked happy, genuinely, radiantly happy in a way he'd never looked with her. Rachel threw her phone across the room. Her life since leaving Marcus had been a slow-motion collapse. Derek had ghosted her immediately after getting fired, blocked her on everything. She'd lost most of their mutual friends in the divorce. People naturally sided with the spouse who'd been betrayed. Her mother's "I told you so" lectures made staying there unbearable, so Rachel had moved into a small apartment she could barely afford. The new job she'd found paid less than her previous position. Her reputation in the industry had taken a hit. Word got around in professional circles. The ambitious, confident woman she'd been had eroded into someone brittle and defensive, and worst of all, she was lonely. Crushingly, devastatingly lonely. Rachel retrieved her phone from where it had landed on the carpet. No cracks, thankfully. She opened Instagram again, unable to stop herself from torturing herself with more photos. Elena's profile was a window into the life Rachel had thrown away. Elena had posted about the housing development project extensively, clearly proud of her work. Comments called her inspiring and brilliant. Marcus replied to many of them with heart emojis and supportive comments. They're perfect together, Rachel thought bitterly. Elena was everything Rachel hadn't been, professionally ambitious in a way that complemented Marcus's work rather than competing with it, genuinely interested in his passion for sustainable design, someone who could be both partner and colleague. Rachel poured another glass of wine and kept scrolling. Elena had posted a photo from a beach vacation. Her and Marcus at sunset, his hand in hers, both of them windblown and tan. "Best 2 weeks ever," the caption read. Marcus had commented, first of many, "Love you." He never said he loved Rachel on social media. He'd barely been on social media at all when they were together. But here he was, publicly declaring his feelings, commenting on Elena's posts with obvious affection, sharing photos of their life together. Rachel clicked back to Marcus's profile. He'd posted about the housing development's grand opening, about winning an architecture award, about Elena graduating with her degree. His bio now read, architect, environmentalist, lucky. It used to just say architect. She noticed he'd blocked her from his personal page, but his professional account, which he used for business networking, was still public. That's how she could see any of this. He'd excised her completely from his personal life but left this window open, probably not even thinking about whether she could see it. Over the following weeks, Rachel couldn't stop checking their profiles. It became a compulsion, a form of self-harm she couldn't quit. She watched their life unfold in curated images. Halloween party where they dressed as Bob Ross and a happy little tree. Thanksgiving with what looked like Elena's family. Christmas with a real tree, wrapped presents. Marcus and Elena in matching ugly sweaters. New Year's Eve post from Elena, a photo of champagne glasses clinking, Marcus's face visible in the background, looking at Elena with such open adoration that Rachel had to close the app. She tried dating, downloaded apps, went on awkward dinners with men who talked too much or too little, who wanted sex immediately or seemed scared of it. None of them were Marcus. None of them even came close. Rachel's therapist, which she'd finally broken down and started seeing, asked her why she kept looking at the photos. "I don't know," Rachel lied, but she did know. She looked because she needed to see what she'd lost. She looked because some masochistic part of her needed the punishment. She looked because seeing Marcus happy made her affair feel real in a way that even the divorce hadn't. He'd moved on, completely. While she was stuck in the same place, circling the drain of her own bad decisions. One Friday evening after too much wine, Rachel typed out a message to Marcus on Instagram. "I'm sorry. I know it means nothing now, but I'm sorry. You deserved better than what I did. She seems wonderful. I hope you're happy." She hovered over the send button for 5 minutes before deleting it all. He wouldn't want to hear from her. And she had no right to intrude on his life, even with an apology. But the watching continued. She couldn't seem to stop. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms and warm breezes. Marcus stood in the backyard of the house he'd once shared with Rachel, and now shared with Elena. Watching her plant tomatoes in the garden she'd insisted on creating, dirt smudged her cheek and her hair had escaped its tie, curling around her face in the humidity. "You're staring," Elena said without looking up. "I'm admiring," Marcus corrected. "There's a difference." She sat back on her heels and grinned at him. "Well, admire these tomatoes. In 3 months we'll have fresh caprese salad." Marcus walked over and crouched beside her. "Elena Verdi, have I told you today that you're the best thing that's ever happened to me?" "Not since this morning. I was starting to wonder." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it. Inside, a simple platinum band with a single diamond caught the sunlight. Elena's breath hitched. Her dirty hands flew to her mouth. "Marcus, I've been married before," Marcus said quietly. "I loved someone before, but I never understood what partnership really meant until you. You challenge me and support me. You make me better. You make me want to be better. I want to build the rest of my life with you. Not because it makes sense, not because we work well together, but because I cannot imagine my future without you in it. Will you marry me?" Elena was crying now, nodding frantically. Yes, absolutely yes." Marcus slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly because he'd sneakily traced one of her other rings weeks ago. Elena launched herself at him and they tumbled backward into the grass, laughing and crying and kissing. "When?" Elena asked, lying on top of him in their backyard, both of them covered in grass and dirt. "Whenever you want." "Tomorrow. Next year. I don't care as long as it happens to fall," Elena decided. "October. Here in the garden. Small ceremony. Just people we actually love." Perfect. They lay there as the sun moved across the sky, making plans and dreaming out loud. The house that had once been the site of Marcus's worst day had become the foundation of his best life. The wedding, when it happened 6 months later, was everything they'd wanted. 50 guests in their backyard, transformed by lights and flowers into something magical. Elena wore a simple white dress and bare feet in the grass. Marcus wore a suit and the widest smile anyone had ever seen on his face. Tom, serving as best man, gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. "I've known Marcus since college. I've seen him at his best and his worst, and I can tell you that this man right here, marrying this woman right here, is the happy ending he deserved all along. To Marcus and Elena, may you build beautiful things together forever." They honeymooned in Costa Rica, hiking through rainforests and swimming in waterfalls, making love in eco-lodges and talking about the future. Elena wanted to expand their work internationally. Marcus wanted to teach, to train the next generation of sustainable architects. They wanted to adopt eventually when the time was right. Build a family as deliberately as they'd built their careers. When they returned home, Marcus finally checked his business Instagram for the first time in 2 weeks. Among the congratulations from colleagues and friends was a message from an account he didn't recognize. He almost deleted it without reading, but something made him pause. The profile photo was Rachel. Her bio read, "Marketing consultant, starting over, better every day." The message was short. "I saw your wedding photos. She's beautiful, and you both look incredibly happy. I'm genuinely glad you found each other. I'm sorry for everything I did to you. You deserved better then, and I'm glad you found it now. No need to respond, I just wanted you to know. Marcus showed the message to Elena, who read it carefully. What do you want to do? She asked. Marcus thought about it. He thought about the man he'd been 3 years ago, standing in a bedroom doorway holding tulips. He thought about the anger he'd never really felt, the revenge he'd never bothered taking. He thought about how Rachel's betrayal, as much as it had hurt, had led him here, to this woman, this life, this happiness. Nothing, he said finally. I don't need to respond. She did what she needed to do for herself saying that. But that chapter is closed. I'm not angry at her anymore. I don't hate her. I just don't think about her at all. Elena nodded and deleted the message. Then let's not start now. They never spoke of it again. Years later, Marcus would sometimes think about that Tuesday afternoon when his life had split in two. The life he'd been living and the life he'd found. He never thanked Rachel for the affair, because that would be absurd. But he understood in a distant, abstract way that sometimes the worst moments are the door to the best ones. The housing development became a model for sustainable urban design, featured in architecture magazines and used as a case study in universities. Marcus and Elena expanded their practice, taking on increasingly ambitious projects. They traveled, they worked, they built. They adopted 2 children, a brother and sister ages 6 and 8, and filled their home with the chaos of family life. Marcus taught his son to draw buildings. Elena taught her daughter about solar panels and water conservation. They were happy in the way that real families are happy, messily, imperfectly, truly, on their 5th anniversary, sitting on their back porch while the kids played in the yard. Elena turned to Marcus. Do you ever think about her? Marcus knew she meant Rachel. Not really. Sometimes I remember that day, but it's like remembering a scene from a movie. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't even feel real. Good, Elena said, taking his hand, because this is real. This is what matters. Marcus looked at his wife, his partner, his best friend, at their children laughing in the garden she'd planted, at the home they'd built together, literally and figuratively. Yes, he agreed. This is all that matters, and it was true. The story that had begun with betrayal and ended with quiet dignity had become something else entirely. A story about building rather than breaking. About moving forward rather than looking back. About finding the person who makes you want to be better, and then becoming better together. Rachel eventually saw Marcus and Elena's family photos on LinkedIn, professionally distant, carefully curated but clearly happy. She looked once, felt the familiar ache, and then closed the app. She was seeing a therapist regularly now, working on herself, dating someone kind who made her laugh. Her life wasn't the life she'd imagined, but it was becoming something she could live with. Sometimes people don't get the revenge they want. Sometimes they just get to move on and build something better. And sometimes that's the most perfect revenge of all. Living well, loving honestly, and letting go of everything that doesn't matter anymore. Marcus Webb had done all 3. And in the end, that was everything.